Every successful company, team, military unit, or organization can attribute their long-term success to building a strong team around them. Now, having highly talented people on that team is definitely important, but the true key to that long-term success within the team is by building quality relationships built on trust and respect. Today, we're going to discuss why this is so important, what good relationships actually look like, and what you can start doing in your business or team right now to start building and improving the relationships. If you get any value out of this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, put your notifications on, and if you stay to the end and comment the word leadership, you'll get a shout out in the next episode. All right, let's go. All right, this is the Libretti Leadership Lab number 3 with me, John Libretti, founder, lead coach at SPEARHEAD Leadership. You can check us out at our website, spearheadleadership.co. You can check us out on Instagram at _spearhead leadership. You can check us out on LinkedIn at Spearhead Leadership. If you're having issues within your team, within your business, managing expectations, setting standards, discipline, conflict resolution, reaching the success you're actually looking for, and you're tired of getting the same cookie cutter PowerPoint spiels from all the other leadership organizations, feel free to reach out to us at any time. And if you like this video, if you like this content, hit that like, hit the subscribe on the page here on YouTube, comment, give us your feedback. We love to hear the feedback here. That's what we like. That's what we feed off of, for lack of a better term. We are here to provide value that you guys actually want. Okay? So if we're missing the mark, we want to know. We want to hear about it. Put it in the comments. Reach out to us on Instagram or LinkedIn. We want to hear it so that we can provide the value that you actually want and need in your lives and businesses and organizations. We're talking about relationships today. Now, there's sort of a connection, but also a common misconception sometimes between team building and relationships. Now, what I mean by that is that team building is vital to reaching the success you want, mitigating the problems and the negative situations going on in your organization or your team to accomplish your goals and reach your vision. But the key to building a strong, talented, unrelenting, well-oiled machine of a team, that's where relationships come in. You have to have good relationships between each member of your team, but the team members between each other. Everything has to be running smoothly, and that all comes back to the relationships department. So I really want you guys to think about the successful teams that you've been a part of, or successful teams you've seen. If you're a solopreneur right now and maybe you don't have as much experience on successful teams, but you've watched successful sports teams, or you've watched documentaries of military organizations, special operations military organizations succeed at accomplishing their mission. Think about those for a second. Okay? Now, think about the bad teams that you've been a part of at your job or career, sports teams, whatever. Think about the bad teams. Okay? Now, in each of those scenarios, think about the relationships between other teammates, between the team members, the employees, the players, whatever, and the leadership, coach, boss, supervisor, what have you. And see if, and really critically think about the differences in the relationships and the dynamic and the culture between the successful teams and between those bad teams that you experienced. I can guarantee you that the non-successful teams, the bad teams, the relationships were not great. You might have had a couple of good relationships with some peers, close coworker friends, work wives, work husbands, things of that nature. But there was definitely a disconnect and a lack of trust and respect, generally speaking, and most likely between the leader and the members of the team. That's usually where that stems from. If you have a poor relationship, if you're a lead, if you're a supervisor of a team, and you have a poor relationship with the majority of the members of your team, good luck getting anything done. What will likely happen if you don't get removed from your position, if you're not the owner of a business and you there's a hierarchy, if you don't get removed, I would be willing to bet that the vast majority of the talent within your team leaves, and you just cycle through talent and people on a regular basis. Now, that happens more often than we want to admit. And when I say we, I mean business owners, managers, supervisors. I get it. We don't want to admit when we're the single point of failure, when the buck stops here, and we're the reason why our teams are not succeeding the way we want to. And when you're hemorrhaging talent, it's only a matter of time before the public, potential clients and customers, your leadership element, if you're middle management, before they start to see, oh, the reason why good people keep leaving and the team is not succeeding has something to do with the leadership element of that team. It's unfortunate. Nobody likes to admit it. That's where our egos kind of take over and push back. I get it. But that's where it stems from. And it comes from having bad relationships. There's no trust. There's no respect. Back and forth. You may not trust your employees for one reason or another. They may not trust you for one reason or another. And with that lack of trust and that poor relationship dynamic, that creates toxic work environments, that creates micromanaging, that creates extra conflict that doesn't need to be there. It opens the door to poor communication skills. Nobody wants to communicate and be transparent and be forward-leaning on the information and value to somebody that they don't like or they have a bad relationship with. Right? Think about it even in your personal lives. If you have an acquaintance or somebody in your friend group that you don't really like, are you gonna provide all the information about how you're doing and what you want and all this other stuff? No, you're not going to do that. Okay? That's sort of a natural, again, human instinct. If I don't like this person, if I don't have a good relationship with them, why would I waste my time and effort and value doing something like that? Why would I trust that person? Why wouldn't I over the shoulder them and sort of micromanage them to make sure the work gets done? I don't trust them. See how all these little things come up just from having a bad relationship with somebody? Now, I'm not saying that successful teams with good relationships are perfect and win every time. And I'm not saying that these teams don't have conflict arise and disagreements and issues, normal human issues, human factor issues that occur. But because the relationships are strong between employees, between team members, and then also between the leader and of the rest of the team, they have the respect for one another and the trust that they're going to be able to overcome these hurdles, effectively handle these conflicts without it becoming personal or toxic, and being able to power through those very normal, very common issues that arise in business, in sports, in whatever, to get to where they need to go, to find the success that they're looking for. So if you think about that, if you think about the linchpin of good relationships with all these other leadership skills and traits and elements, think about how much easier it would be for you to lead your team just by having better relationships with each member. That's team building. You want to build the team, build your relationships with your team members, with your employees, whatever buzzword you want to use that I keep interchanging. That's how you're going to do it. Okay. And it makes communication easier. It makes giving feedback easier. Even if it's negative feedback, if you have to have a tough conversation with somebody, that becomes easier. It makes resolving conflicts easier and less frequent because there's going to be less conflicts in general. The micromanaging is going to be slim to none. You don't need to micromanage a team you trust and respect, right? You know they're going to get the jobs done. And you're more easily able to set expectations and standards for your team and have that accountability in there because you have the good relationships. And I don't know how many other ways I can effectively communicate to you guys how important good relationships are to leadership in general, in every aspect of leadership. So if there was a foot stomp at all in this episode, this is the foot stomp. Good relationships, strong relationships built on trust and respect for each other is going to be the true key to team building, building that culture of success, and achieving the goals and missions of your team and organization. Simple as that. Sounds simple, right? It is very simple and basic in principle. Have a better relationship with the person next to you. Very simple in concept. But we all know that in reality, it's very difficult to do some of this stuff because there's the human element. There's emotions. There's also no expectation or requirement to actually like everybody you work with. It's almost impossible to see that. I don't think I've ever been on a team that I can think of in recent history where I liked every single person on that team the same amount. Where I wanted to be best friends with every single member of the team. It just doesn't happen. We're too unique as individuals. We all like different things. We all believe in different things. We have different opinions, different experiences. It's almost impossible. So this is not to say that you should go out and like and be friends with everybody on your team. In fact, the opposite, especially if you're a leader, if you're a supervisor and you hold a leadership role and title within your organization, you don't want to be friends with everybody on the team. That actually is a poor leadership quality that we will talk about in a future episode. We'll probably actually talk to some guests about that, about their experiences with that be everybody's best friend type of leader. There's a lot of pitfalls in that. But you want to be able to trust and respect each member of the team. You can have good professional relationships without having to be friends with somebody. In fact, one of the better work relationships I've ever had when I was in the military, when I was in the Air Force, was with a pilot in our unit who, as a human being, like out of uniform and at home or whatever in the personal world, I had no interest in. And he had no interest in me, so to speak. We were not friends. We had nothing in common. We did not really like each other on a personal level. But we had a conversation one day about our professional abilities. Now, I wasn't his supervisor. He wasn't my supervisor. We were peers at the time. I held a leadership position in a different department of our unit, and he held a leadership position in another department. So we were both leaders separately and peers within the larger unit in our organization. We had a conversation that we basically, from working together for so long, he as a pilot, me as an intelligence support element, providing intelligence during missions to him. Our work relationship naturally, we were so in sync professionally. We had a conversation one day with each other, just basically saying, "Hey, I I don't like I don't like you, you don't like me, but damn, I'll fly with you anytime," kind of thing. If you remember in Top Gun, at the end of Top Gun, when Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise came together, he said, "You could be my wingman anytime." It was very much like that. We were just able to separate personal and professional, responsibilities and feelings and emotions and get the job done for both of our internal teams and for the overall mission for the organization. And it was great. I guess, like I said, one of the best working relationships I've ever had with somebody. And it was a person I didn't even like personally, and they didn't like me. We weren't even friends. Don't have his phone number. Never talked to him again after we left each other. It was just a salute, a handshake, and that was it. And it worked out great. So you don't have to be friends to have a good relationship with the people you work with and the people that work for you and the people you work for if you're a member of a team and not in a leadership specific role. So something that, again, another thing to consider when I'm talking about good relationships, not best friends stuff. Good professional relationships that help move the needle towards success. Now, how do we do this? If you're a supervisor, a manager, a team lead, a business owner, the best and almost only effective way to do this is by leading by example, through leading by example. It's the most effective way and the only way you're going to see almost 100% success rate when it comes to building relationships with people. You're the leader of the team. Everybody looks to you to set the example, not just to get orders and taskings and motivational speeches or critical feedback, get chastised and micromanaged. They're looking to you to be the example. Okay? Especially if they're a new member of the team, if they're a new hire. Yeah, they're going to look at their peers, and this is part of your responsibility as the leader to ensure that your team members are leading by example for each peer around them. But new hires will look around, see how other people are working, see what is accepted and what the standard is within the team, and they're going to be looking to you to see how that's dictated, how that's actioned, and then they're going to adjust how they perform and the effort they give based on your example. So if they see the team members, their employees, new employees, all peers or whatever, coworkers, if they see them lollygagging into work late, if they see them, giving 50% effort on taskings and work, maybe they're late to submit taskings and get things done on time. Maybe they're disrespectful. Maybe they don't trust anything that the leader, the boss, or you have to say or do. Unfortunately, I know you don't want to admit it and you don't want to accept it, but that's on you as the leader. That's on you if you're the business owner of that company, if you're the CEO, if you're the manager in charge of that team, that falls on you. And if you go back to it, it's because you didn't set standards, probably because you don't have good relationships with the people on your team. And you're allowing this to happen, and the respect is gone, and the trust is gone. So you have to lead by example. If you want your team members to trust you, you have to trust them. And there's none of this, oh, well, they're new, they have to earn my trust and respect. First of all, no. Plainly put, no. Because that's what they're thinking too. This guy has to earn my trust and respect. If I want to respect him as a leader, he has to earn that. So now you're just constantly going to be doing nothing and sitting back and waiting for the other person to earn that trust and respect, and the relationship's going to go nowhere. If you want your team to trust you, you have to trust them. Now, how do you trust them? How do you build that trust within them? And that's through other leadership skill sets. That's through setting clear expectations of what you expect from them, setting standards and holding them accountable to those expectations and standards. And then when you see them meeting those standards and those expectations, you can start to elevate. You can start to expand. Maybe give them some more responsibility. Show them that you value that effort and that standard that they're setting for themselves now. You can give them more responsibility. You can put people under them to supervise. Show them, that's how you show that you trust them and you value their work. Pizza parties, high fives, $20 gift card prizes. I'm sorry. You think that might be providing the value and showing them that you appreciate them and trust them, but it does the opposite, folks. I'm sorry, it does the opposite. It's almost a slap in the face to the hard work that they're doing. They're working 8 hours a day, sometimes more, depending on the organization and the responsibility. They're given at least 40 hours of their day, of their weeks, week in and week out, away from other things for your team, for your organization, and your organization's goals. So if you're the business owner, it's your goals and vision that you want them to help get to. So if they do all this work and they're exceeding expectations and they're meeting standards and they're crushing it, and you show up with a $25 gift card to Starbucks or a pizza party to show your appreciation, you buy them lunch or you set up a potluck, that's a direct slap in the face. That means their extra work is worth the slice of pizza. And guess what they're probably going to do after that? They're probably not going to exceed expectations any further. They're going to start doing the bare minimum just to get by because that's all you apparently value them for. That one pizza slice worth of extra work. So you have to actually show that you value their work and trust them by providing them actual proof that you trust them and respect that respect their effort. You also have to be willing to do the work yourself. You cannot task your team members to do anything that you haven't done before or you aren't willing to do yourself. Now, that's a little easier for business owners. If you're a founder of a business and you're growing and scaling it, the likelihood is that you were doing everything within the business in the beginning for a certain amount of time before hiring and growing your team. So you already had that track record of doing each task that you're now delegating out. But if you're promoted to a managerial role or hired an outside hire into a leadership role, you have to be willing to put in the work and make the sacrifices you're asking of your team. Again, you got to lead by example. If you're telling your team, hey, I need you to work on this overtime until it's done. It's due tomorrow, so I don't care if it takes till midnight to do. It has to be done by tomorrow, 8 a.m., whatever. You have to show them that you're willing to stay there in the trenches with them to make sure that work gets done. If it's that important that you're requiring extra effort and energy from your team, then it should be important enough for you to also put that extra effort and energy in. You cannot be sending out an email or a text message on your way home to enjoy a weekend to ask your team to stay through the weekend to get a job done. You're not going to build trust that way. You're certainly not going to build respect that way, and you're certainly not going to grow and build and improve your relationship with your team that way. I can't tell you how many how many times we had leaders in the military, leaders by duty title, not by action, constantly say those common phrases and words. This is important to the mission. We have to all be able to make sacrifices. And then what ends up happening? The team is there 10, 12, 14 hours going into the weekend, working extra, taking away time from them and their family, and the boss is at home going to the movies with his kids or whatever, his or her kids. It happens everywhere. And that excuse of, well, there's nothing I can do. Well, what am I going to stay there for and watch them get it done? That's their job to do. I task them with that. That's not going to fly. I'm sorry, that's not going to fly. Because again, if it's important enough for you to delegate, to task with that extra work and those sacrifices for your vision and goals of the team, then you got to be willing to roll your sleeves up and get in the trenches with them. That's one of the quickest ways to build and grow a relationship with your team members is to get your hands dirty with them. You don't even have to say anything. You just show up, start doing the work with them. Leading by example. Some other stuff you can do and something to think about. You could do this. You could start thinking about this and working on this now. Is improving your situational awareness. Strengthen that situational awareness, that self-awareness as well. You want to understand, you want to have a decent understanding of what your team members think of you and how you're perceived to the team. Now, one of the common pitfalls of people in managerial supervisory roles is that they have this idea of, oh, I'm checking all these boxes of communicating effectively and setting standards and tasking and delegating and being a good boss. So my team must love me and respect me for it. We must all have a good relationship. Unfortunately, that's also not true. Okay? Because again, how they perceive you is very different from how we perceive ourselves. And the only way to find that out is to improve your self-awareness and get that feedback from them. Now, if you don't have a good relationship with them, it's going to be tough to get feedback for them to be honest and open with you about how they feel you're doing as a leader. So you're going to have to work on these particular elements, these skill sets to improve the relationship to get to that point. But it's possible. That's what we're talking about now. How to improve the relationships, how to build those strong relationships. More often than not, the relationship is that you're trying to build is really a rebuild. You already have a strained relationship with somebody at work. So you're trying to rebuild. And now while that's tougher, that's more common. And that's why we're talking about how to kind of rebuild relationships here. So you want to have that self-awareness. You want to actually have a good understanding of what your team thinks of you. If they like your leadership style, if it resonates with them, if you're actually communicating effectively to them. Because you might think you are. You might be communicating or articulating something to somebody in a way that you receive well, but if they don't receive that kind of form of communication well, then it's going to fall on deaf ears. Now your effective communication is no longer effective. So now they might misunderstand what you're looking for a task, and they're going to do it wrong. And now you're going to think, oh, this person can't do what I say. When really, if you walk it back, buck stops with you. So self-awareness, having a better understanding of what the team thinks of you, how they think you're doing as a leader, and then working on improving those things. Now, another step, another thing you can do to build a relationship, and this is This is something that I've seen a lot in the past. People confuse with sort of checklist interview style to accomplish this, but I'm going to try to be more clear with this. You want to connect with each member of your team. And that does not mean scheduling time with each employee to run an interview and find out about them. You don't, that's not how you actually connect with your team. Okay. Your employees are going to see that. If you walk up to them and just start asking them very sort of common interview style questions or small talk type questions, they're going to know that this is a game you're playing to try to check the box of good leadership and relationship building. Oh, how's your day? What are you doing this weekend? What sports teams do you like? And then you check the box. Oh yeah, I'm connecting with them. I know they like the Yankees, so that must mean we got a good relationship. Nuh-uh. That's not how it works. You have to genuinely connect with people. Think about how you've connected with your loved ones, your significant other, your actual, your friends in your personal life. How did you do that? You didn't do it by interviewing each other, right? So you have to be able to genuinely connect when you're talking to your team members about things or you hear them say stuff in passing. Remember it. Take it in. If you have to go back to your office by yourself to write it down, do that. There's no shame in that. If you're talking to an employee in the break room or whatever, and you hear them talking about, oh, I want to watch the Yankee game today because I'm a big Yankees fan, and my father was a Yankees fan, and my kids love them too now, so I want to be able to get home and catch the game with my kids. Go write that down on a notepad somewhere else. Don't do it in front of them because, again, leadership is not a checklist, okay? And building relationships is not a checklist. Connecting with others is not a checklist item. But you can go write it down for the future. Now you know later on. Hey, Joey, I saw the Yankees, picked up this guy. What are your thoughts on that? And then you just start a regular conversation. Talk about sports. Talk about whatever hobbies they might have. Genuinely connect with people, and that starts with listening to them and understand, not listening to respond, but actively listening to them to understand where they're coming from, understand what their interests are, their motivations are. Building that connection that way. If they have a good idea to accomplish a task within the team, even if it's not your idea, maybe use it. If it's a good idea, use it. That'll build a connection. That'll increase your trust and respect between the two of you. You have to connect with each member of your team. That's also going to help you as a leader because you're going to be able to better understand their strengths and weaknesses, so then you can put them in positions that empower those strengths and also help improve those weaknesses, so that you're setting them up for success and you're also setting the team up for success. Okay? If somebody is really good at C++ computer programming, put them in the position that's going to use C++ to do the computer programming for your tech business or whatever, as an example. If they're not good at it, you don't want to put them there and be like, oh, learn it and you'll learn a new skill. Good luck to you. No, empower their strengths. And then if you want them to learn something new, provide them the resources to learn that new thing. Then we'll talk about that in a future episode when it comes to, training and support as a leader. But that's just another example of how to build the connection with those around you, show them that you respect them and trust them, and that will grow the relationship within the team. The last thing we'll kind of discuss as far as things you can work on is to acknowledge conflict when it arises. This is probably the hardest one to do because nobody wants to talk about conflict. Nobody wants to deal with problems or arguments or disagreements. within the organization. And it's also connected to what I was talking about earlier with not trying to be best friends with everybody on the team, meaning not you don't have to agree on everything all the time. That's often a leadership faux pas, if you will, that a lot of us have done in the past. I've done in the past, hand up. When I was a young leader, young officer in the military, I did it all the time. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I didn't want anyone to disagree with me. I wanted us to always be on the same sheet of music. So I would try to say things and take us in directions toward, to achieve our mission in a way I thought everybody would be on board, would agree upon. And that's just not realistic. It's not effective. It's gonna get people even more angry with you in the long run, and you're gonna hurt your relationship more in the long run by doing that. You can't please everybody. You can't be the people pleaser, best pal all the time to everybody. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're actually going to be able to improve and build good relationships with people. So when I say acknowledge conflict, you want to be open and transparent with your team about what direction you want to go in, and also that you understand not everybody is going to agree with the taskings you provide or the direction or the expectations, but that this is the best way to go. Unless somebody has a better idea, then hear that feedback. But this is the intent is I'm looking for the best way to get to mission accomplishment. And you don't have to necessarily agree with it, but we're gonna go with it. And if we find some other better way along the journey, we'll adjust fires as necessary. And that's okay to be open and transparent about that stuff. That's another misconception when it comes to leadership and communication, is that people are too afraid to say that. Oh, you don't want to say that. It shows weakness. Weakness what? That shows that you're a human and you understand that you can't agree on everything? How is that a weakness? So you want to acknowledge that conflict. You want to acknowledge that there's going to be disagreements. You want to acknowledge situations head on and directly when it comes to those uncomfortable, difficult conversations you may have to have, because your team members are going to respect you more for it in the long run. If you sweep stuff under the rug, if you try to avoid all the bad, negative stuff going on in the company, it's going to be, a nice relief in the beginning that it's all swept under the rug, but eventually it's all going to boil over and it's going to get much worse. So don't avoid the conflict. Don't avoid the hard conversations. Just be open, honest, transparent with everybody on your team, and you're going to garner that respect much more so in the long run, and that's going to build a relationship. At the end of the day, you're on the same team. This is not a boss versus team, employee situation. So it benefits everybody to have these good relationships. I never understood seeing these bosses and supervisors that treat their employees like dirt or just like simple cogs in the wheel just because, I'm the boss. They have to do what I say. All I care about is that the results are there. Doesn't matter. Everything else doesn't matter. And they don't really think about the big picture about A, the human condition, and B, actually seeing long-term success is going to happen from building your team up and having their back and letting them know you're part of the team with them. That's much more effective than the fear tactics and treating them like dirt and just caring about the results only. Because then you're going to see the talent leave. Everybody's going to be leaving. You're going to be cycling through employees and wasting time and money recruiting, hiring, and retraining new people just for them to realize this is not the place for me. This is a toxic work environment. I'm out of here. The number one, if you look it up, if you Google it on a regular basis, the number one issue and number one reason people leave their jobs almost on a regular annual basis is not because of salary. It's not because they're not getting paid enough. It's not because they're not getting enough leave. It's because of the toxic work environment that has been cultivated and allowed by the poor leadership within that organization or team. And a poor work environment, toxic work environment, is from bad relationships, no trust, no respect. So have your teams back. Let them know you're there with them. Connect with them. Acknowledge that conflict. Have the awareness. Understand how your actions or inactions or your decisions are affecting each member of the team. That's how you're going to build the team up. The team building that everybody talks about, that's how you do it. Having good relationships. Now, if you have the money and the wherewithal and there's some good options available, those team building exercises you see people do, movies talk about it all the time, team building exercises where they're going on these obstacle courses and stuff like that. You might think those are kind of silly, but if you find a good one and you're able to get your team out there, that's also very helpful. Just telling your team we have to work better together is not going to get your team to work better together. Those team building exercises, when done right, are effective ways to strengthen relationships between members of the team and the leadership and strengthening those bonds and creating that well-oiled machine. So if you want further information about that, team building exercises, what are good exercises and effective ways to simulate and enable these controlled environments to build a team up and build these relationships, comment in the YouTube, put in the comments about that you want to, or DM, reach out to us directly. We got a lot of, that's a separate episode all in and of itself that we could talk about. So, but at the end of the day, build a relationship, strengthen your team, see the success you want. If you watch the show Reacher, it's on Amazon Prime. I've been on a big Reacher kick. A lot of the stuff is not terribly realistic when it comes to some of the action scenes and stuff like that, but it's fun. I'm a big fan of it. But there's a scene in one of the episodes where Reacher, the main character, he's in charge of this new team of specialized professionals in the army. They all have their own individual talents, and he recruited them all individually for this team, and it's like their first day on the job. And one of the questions they had was, how are we going to get all these different personality types to work together? Now, in the show, and I absolutely don't recommend people, business owners and leadership elements do this in real life, but in the show, the main character, brought his team to this officers only club for a drink, knowing that he had enlisted members on his team and knowing that there was going to be a bunch of officers who were going to have a problem with that, and that was going to cause a situation, a conflict, and his team was going to have to work together to get through that conflict. That conflict ended up being a bar fight, and at the end of the scene, one of the guys on the team said, "Hey, you knew this was, did you know this was going to happen?" He's like, "Yeah, now we know our team can work together. We have all these dynamic alpha personalities. Now I know we can work together because we came together tonight at this bar fight." Like I said, I don't recommend that in real life. That's a terrible way to build team camaraderie and strengthen relationships and get people working as a well-oiled machine. But it's an example of a effective controlled environment to simulate, team building and to be able to build those relationships. So again, if you're interested in learning about actual effective team building exercises without having to get into bar fights, reach out to us at Spearhead Leadership. That's one of the many things that we do and that we're very good at to be able to build teams and improve relationships. So with that, we're going to get out of here for the day. Before we go, very quickly, the big three. The three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, more genuine, less stressed human being and a better leader overall in life. Number one, exercise every day. Do at least one thing each and every day to improve your physical, mental, or emotional health and wellness. Number two, the hardest one to do, don't be a negative, mean, disrespectful person. Be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be negative towards someone or to even respond negatively towards somebody, even if they deserve it, take a deep breath, take a step back, detach from those negative emotions, and just remove yourself from the situation altogether. It sounds simple, but we all know how difficult it is in the moment, especially on social media and the internet when it's so easy to just fire off a response. You're hiding behind your keyboard or your phone. That's not a person, that's just a profile. No big deal. That's when you take that deep breath and remove yourself. And you'll minimize the negativity going on in the world, and you'll be able to open your own, the capacity within yourself to go focus on more positive, productive things. Number three, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And you can start doing this by just actively thinking about at least one thing a day that's good in your life, whatever it may be, just one thing, and then think about what your life would be like without that thing and how bad your life might be without that thing. That'll immediately put you in the state of gratitude. And if you do that more and more and more often each day, more often you're going to have that you're going to be in that state of gratitude. You're going to be feeling better about yourself. Now, if you do all these three things, just a little bit each and every day, just a little bit each day, baby steps to progress. I promise you, you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, and a better leader overall in life. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget, like and subscribe. And tell your friends and enemies about this channel. And if you got anything of value, comment the word leadership in the comments at the end here, and we'll give you a shout out on the future episode. Thank you guys again. Love you all. Stay strong.